This is the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Welcome back. I'm Jackson Neill here for episode number 123 of Anything Goes. 1, 2, 3. Today, pop singer-songwriter Scott Helman comes on the podcast. Before we jump into that, I want to remind everyone that this podcast is available on all of your favorite streaming platforms. That's right, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. If I'm missing any, you'll probably be able to find it wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Make sure to rate and subscribe with new episodes coming every single Tuesday and Thursday. So, Scott recently released his single, Everything Sucks, and even though it kind of has a little bit of a more negative name, it's a really fun and upbeat song. He also has some other music, including his EP Hang Ups with a new Latin remix to the title track. So he has a lot of recent stuff out right now, and he's working on new stuff. And when he came through Philadelphia recently to play at the Theater of the Living Arts, I caught up with him to talk about this latest music, the stuff he's working on, what he has coming forward, and just a lot of other cool things. Scott was a fun guy to talk with, and it was an interesting conversation I had with him. So, let's jump right into it. How's your tour going?
Man, it's good. Busy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just started again, so we were off for like a month. But yeah, opening for Dean Lewis. It's been. Can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay.
Anything goes.
Cool. Yeah, it's been fucking awesome. I mean, it was actually really lucky that we had a month off because I just put out a single, so like it fell right in that time when I had to like get videos ready, get like all the artwork done. So I was like, because usually it's not the best to have to kind of pause a tour. Like you want to just keep going, and like even going home for a day is too much because it's like, you know, you got to see your family and everyone wants. It's like I'd rather just tour and then come home. But so I was kind of like a little like, it was weird that it was pausing for a month. I think Dean had like stuff he was writing and stuff like that. But it ended up working out really well because, yeah, I got the single release already. And
So even in that month off, you're doing some work still?
Oh, yeah. I think I was actually busier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, putting out music is always the most busy thing. Especially because now I'm like co-producing. So I'm at a point where like I have the skills to be able to actually like be in control of all the aspects of the music making process. So, and that's always kind of what I wanted. Which is great, but I mean, it's that funny, like, two-sided, like, double-edged sword thing where it's like, on one hand, you know, as an artist, or I think as anybody, we want, like, as much freedom and creative freedom as possible. But also with freedoms comes responsibilities. I mean, I know that's so cheesy, but it's true, and it's like, it's so weird. I was just talking to my friend about it, and it's like, you look in every direction and there's stress, and it's like, yeah, it's because you're in control of your own shit.
Exactly, yeah. Like,
you know?
Like it's nice to be able to co-produce, but it's like, I'm not just singing on this track.
No,
I gotta do all this other stuff.
I gotta go through all these mixes. Like my last single, Everything Sucks, I think we had like 40 mixes of that song.
Okay. Jeez.
So,
well, wow, those mixes for that track specifically, I guess.
Oh yeah, just like, oh, the snare drum's too loud, or like I don't like that effect in that part. Like, you know, just because I'm so meticulous, and I get so like, I just get so micromanagey when I do things. So, but it's good.
Perfectionist, exactly.
Yeah, well, I don't like to use that word because I'm definitely not perfect, but yeah.
So you said you just kind of started co-producing like recently. When did that kind of start?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of like had a big interest in all things music, and you know, I would go into a studio and I'd be like, what does that do? And what does that do? And I just want to know because I'm just interested, and just the more work I put into it and the more I was in the studio, like I would learn things, you know, especially when you're sitting next to a producer and watching them make a track. It's like you just pick things up. And then it would get to a point where, you know, I would bring demos in, or I would bring in like a track idea. Yeah. And then Togs, who I produced most of my work with, he was like, okay, like, you know how to do this now, so let's do it. Like, let's actually do for the next songs, like let's do it together. Okay. I mean, he's still like producing, but he's sending me the session when we're done the demo, and then he's like, put all your shit on it. Yeah. Like, put all your weird effects, all the weird vocal things you want to do, like make it your own kind of thing, which is so fun because we write a great pop song together. Me, him, Simon Wilcox, Ron LaPata, whoever I'm co-writing with. We all sit down in a room, we write a great song, and then Tog sends me the session, and I sit in my bedroom for a week and a half and just like go to town on the track.
Okay.
And then it really, when I listen to it, I'm like, that's so how I envision the song.
Yeah, you're able to like actually put your own stamp on it.
So, yeah, it's nice to feel like. I think the more authentic you can be in any way, like specifically in terms of art, it's like better because even if you fail, at least you can go like, I failed being myself rather than succeeded being someone else.
Exactly.
And that's always kind of been like my go-to. Like, I'd rather do something real and different and authentic, and if I fail, I fail. But I mean, like, at least I can, go to bed like going like, yeah, I did what I wanted.
We hear that a lot of times with artists where they'll talk about like the label wants them to push them in this direction, or like somebody wants them to make this type of song, but it's like you make that one song and goes crazy. Well, how do you do that again? How do you do that again if that's not what you really feel like making?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a tricky thing. I mean, also, labels don't know shit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, labels are amazing at selling records.
Yeah.
But labels aren't artists. And my label would be the first person to be like, we want you to just tell us what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously within budgets, and there's also like...
Oh, it's always budgets.
There's also politics involved, and I think the label also wants to feel like they have a say in things. So that's always a tricky relationship. But at the same time, like a good relationship with a record label and a good inter-record label artist relationship is always the artist first. Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, we're young and we know what's cool.
Exactly.
Like, I know that sounds so, like, conceited, but it's true. And it's always been that way.
Yeah, it's how it is. You don't tell them how to promote your single on the radio.
And when
I'm
35, I'll go to a 23-year-old and I'll be like, what's up?
Yeah, exactly.
But,
what are these kids saying?
Yeah.
What does lit mean? I don't understand this.
Crazy, man. So I've always been about that.
So this late.
Holy shit. Oh, sorry, that's a crazy bug.
These are called lanternflies. They're like an invasive species from like China that has gotten into Philly.
Whoa.
They don't sting or anything. They're supposed to kill.
Oh
them.
no! Whoa.
I'm sorry.
That upset me deeply.
But
kind of great. Whoa, they're red.
See, they're ruining the ecosystem right now here in Philadelphia.
Okay, so kill them.
Exactly. Yeah. I just stomped on a lanternfly for the people listening on the audio platform.
It was pretty beautiful, actually. It was kind of poetic, but whoa, they're like red underneath.
Yeah, it's like almost like a butterfly, but like no one knows how they got here, and they're just like screwing up the ecosystem.
Yeah, we have that kind of shit in Canada too.
Gotcha. So let's get to this. Let's get to the single. Everything Sucks.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about like the process going into that track and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So, I write with this amazing writer named Simon Wilcox.
Okay.
And it was her title. And she came into the studio and she's like, we were just going through titles. Like that's how I like to write, because I feel like when you do it that way, you end up with a really cohesive thing. When you're like, I want to write a song called this.
Yeah.
And even if it isn't end up called that at the end, I feel like it's just like it's a great way to start writing.
It's like a thesis statement for a song.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, that's actually a great way to put it, because a lot of the times when you're writing, you have an idea in mind of like what you think might be true, especially when you're co-writing. Usually that idea changes because you're wrong about a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And that's where good songs are. I think good songs are just like, oh shit, I've learned something here.
Yeah.
So, but with Everything Sucks, she brought up that title to me like in this session, and we spent like we spent like a couple hours trying to figure out how it worked. And we just couldn't do it. Like, it just wasn't making sense, and I don't think we were in that vibe at the time. So we moved on. We wrote another song, which was great. But then because I remembered the title, we had like a session, I think like a couple weeks later, and we were working on this track, and we had this other idea, and we were working on this other idea, and this track was so cool. Like, it was the piano.
Yeah.
Like, like, it was just so fun.
Yeah.
And we had this idea, and I don't know, I just wasn't enjoying I didn't like the song we were writing. So then we ended up kind of scrapping the song, but I was like, no, this track's too good. We need to figure out a way to make this track work. So I was like, what about that title, that Everything Sucks title? I loved that title. How do we make that work? And then it just happened, like, really fast. It was just a matter of finding the right track for that title.
It was just a matter of like finding it was the right place, the right time.
Yeah, so I think what we did was we wrote that chorus, and it was about drugs.
Okay.
It was about missing drugs.
Gotcha.
Because I used to do drugs.
Okay.
I don't do drugs anymore.
Well, that's
but
good.
I used to. Yeah. Well, you know, I was just like a city kid, and I went to an art school, and you know, we partied.
Plenty
and did
of
stupid
opportunities
things.
there.
Yeah. You know. Oh no. Sorry.
No problem.
Shoot. Sorry. Pause the video. No, we're not doing a video.
Just
Pause the podcast.
magic of editing.
Sorry.
That's all good.
Yeah. So, anyways, no. Oh my gosh.
I think it's when you're putting your arm down.
Hold on. Put it underneath
There.
the cord.
Oh, look
There
at
we
that.
go. But yeah, and I mean, the Simon and Togs, who I mentioned before, like they know me so intimately that they really know my life.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, I want you to write about, because I had this really bad breakup when I was about 17.
Okay.
And she's like, I want you to write about that, and I want you to write about it from the perspective of like that crushing misery, because the title was Everything Sucks. So it was kind of like a mixture of, it was about that, but we used like the imagery of like, I'm feeling sick, think it's contagious, I haven't tripped, but I can taste it. Like we used that drug imagery, and we sort of mixed it with the love story. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
So it was a breakup when you were from when you were 17.
Yeah, and this all kind of happened at the same, like all this stuff that I'm talking about, the drugs and the breakup and all that. It was all just this miserable part of my life.
Okay.
From when I was around 17, 18. It was just an awful time.
So how old are you now?
I'm 24. I just turned 24 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So you're 24. That's 7 years ago. 6, 7 years ago. How are you able to kind of go back and like think of that so vividly in order to write a song? Is that difficult for you, or is that something that's just always kind of there?
That experience is very visceral for me.
Okay.
I feel like I've spent a lot of time unpacking that, and unpacking like trauma, and unpacking like what I went through when I was younger. But I feel like if you asked anyone on the street, like, you know, what was one of the most painful times of their lives, they'd probably tell you verbatim, and they'd probably have like specific details about it.
Exactly.
And then you'd be like, when did that happen to you? And they'd be like, I don't know, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the thing about trauma and about suffering that's so weird, is like you never really forget it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I never really wrote about that part of my life from that kind of like fun, ironic perspective, which really helped me, because I mean, it's over now.
Yeah.
And that girl that I broke up with is my current girlfriend. So
oh wow,
I kind of won the game a little
exactly.
bit.
Yeah. Lost the battle, won the war.
That's what it was, really.
That's kind of cool though, to think about it like in a fun, ironic kind of way. It's almost like a way of healing and kind of getting back from it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. At least for now. I mean, but there's always a time for sincerity, and then there's a time for like black humor.
Yeah.
And I think that they don't have to be like mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Like my therapist just said to me the other day, she was like, we always think that we have to, in order to be happy, we have to like almost try to be happy.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how she phrased it, but it was sort of like the way that we in society view being happy is like going to the spa, or like playing golf on a Sunday, or like taking a pill that makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, most of like the religions of the world and like the really spiritual ideas in the world all point to the idea of turning towards your suffering.
Okay.
I know this is all really hokey and kind of
I find it interesting though.
A bit like deep, but I thought that was so true, because it's true. Like if you look at instead of turning away from the awful things that have happened to you in your life, if you turn towards them and you go, what did that mean? And why was that so painful? It kind of becomes so much easier to deal with, I think. Which is why like talking about stuff is always better than not.
Because you're not like then just shielding it and saying like almost like trying to hide from it.
Yeah.
It's like, this happened to you. You got to face it. Whether
there's so many people walking around this world just burying their shit.
Exactly.
It's so weird to me.
Yeah, I could never understand that, because it's like when you have that moment where you're finally like, oh shit, I got to talk about this.
100%. Yeah, and it's so weird. It's like Simon actually said to me, she's like, we're all on a leaky. She's like, if I told you to get on a leaky boat, would you get on the boat? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, you're on one, and it's your life, because you're gonna die one day. I was like, that's so true. It's so weird. We're all on this leaky boat, and we're like, none of us know it's like what the hell is going on, and it's so crazy that we're all on the same road to this crazy end, and nobody's talking about their shit.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. I just want to talk about this awful experience that I had, and I want to be like so brutally honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
But with that fun twist, I think it just makes it fun and bearable.
You know what that reminds me of? That idea of a leaky boat. It's like there's like this Buddhist message that like if you think about death 5 times a day, it actually makes you a happier person. And there's like this app I have that sends you a notification 5 times a day with a quote about death.
No way.
Yeah, it's called We Croak. It's like a 99 cents, but it's like the best.
We Croak?
We Croak, yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
And like so 5 times a day you get a notification. It's like, remember you're going to die, and you click on it and it sends you like like a quote. And you just like stop and think like, holy shit, I'm going to die. Man, I better enjoy this burger I'm eating right now. Like you start to think like that.
That's amazing.
And it's kind of like puts
incredible.
It puts
actually.
Everything in perspective, you know?
Yeah, that was the tricky thing about Everything Sucks too is that it like because there's that lyric at the end of the chorus. It's think about you on somebody else and want to kill myself.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of pushback on that lyric because I mean obviously it's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But I was just like that's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really how I felt.
Yeah.
So like, am I gonna pretend like it's not? Or am I going to say what actually happened? And it's kind of the same thing about like recognizing that our lives are kind of these futile like pods of insanity.
Yeah.
Because it's like you might as well acknowledge the crazy shit. Than, like not. It's just that's really wild. I'm going to download that app right now.
Okay. Yeah. I'll show you.
Well, maybe after this.
Yeah, I'll show you after the interview. I'll show you what it is.
So cool.
So
We Croak.
We Croak. Yeah, I heard about it on a podcast and I was like, that sounds really dark, but let me try it. Great decision.
Yeah.
Been doing it for like a couple weeks now.
Cool, man.
So, you have this single out. What else are you working on right now? Like, what other things are you working on?
I'm working on my next single. I just finished it, so it's gonna get mixed soon. I can't say exactly when it's gonna be coming out, but it's gonna be coming out really soon.
Mm-hmm.
So basically now, because I had hangups, and then I kind of took I went on tour. I didn't really take time off, but I got I got a lot of action in the U.S. Like I have the Warner Brothers down here now is A&Ring my project, and they're
awesome, right?
really interested in working. And so I kind of was like, okay, that's what I've been hoping for my whole career. So I kind of took a minute and reassessed everything, and I was like, okay, I know all these things that I'm doing well are awesome, and that's great, but there's these things that I want to improve on and I want to make better. And one of those things was just making the project more cohesive.
Okay.
So, and also putting out a way larger quantity of music.
Okay.
Because I think nowadays it's a shame, but it is quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get quantity and quality, it's like you're just poised for success. Like if you can put out a really large breadth of work that is also really good. I mean, I know that's like the dream,
exactly.
But that's like what are you aiming for? So I think I'm at a point now where I'm like, I want to put out a ton of music and I want to put it out in like a stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to just put out a big body of work. I want to just put out like a ton of singles that are really cool and all follow one cohesive sort of thought.
Okay.
And I want the artwork to all be one cohesive. So I have a whole idea for how the artwork's going to match up. And I'm just excited to like try to execute like a more like grand artistic vision than just putting out not that an album isn't, but it's I don't know. It's different because it's like you get with an album you get one picture. If you're gonna put out 5 tracks, it's like you have 5 pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm like I want them all to be in the same vein. I want the marketing to be the same every time, and I want the songs to be amazing and challenging, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I know that's a lot. But.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Dude, anytime. Thanks for having me.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Again, a thank you out to Scott for coming onto the show. Remember, if you go down into the show notes, I have links down there so you can check out his music, so you can listen to Everything Sucks, and then any other singles that he's dropping, as well as to follow him on Instagram so you can keep up to date on everything that he's up to. Also, if you heard in the interview, there was a whole issue with the lanternfly. If you've never seen one of those before, I recommend looking it up. Might give you guys some context on that. Well, Thank you so much for checking out this episode. Remember to subscribe and rate to this podcast on your favorite platforms. New episodes every single Tuesday and Thursday, so you don't want to miss out. For more episodes of this podcast, as well as my music discussion podcast and my sports discussion podcast, go over to jacksonneillpodcast.com. If you're a really big fan of the show, maybe you want to consider becoming a subscriber over on Patreon. For just a couple dollars a month, or even $1 a month, you can get access to cool bonus content from these interviews here on Anything Goes, as well as bonus segments from my sports and music podcasts. I write, record, produce, do everything for these podcasts myself as a full-time college student, so any little bit of support really does go a long way and helps me make more of these cool episodes. Link to that down in the show notes. If you want to stay up to date on everything that I'm doing, want to hear my thoughts, see some cool pictures, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JacksonNeill20. Today's music is by Analog by Nature with their song CDK Sunday. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you all next time.